Welcome to Amra's Armchair Anecdotes. I'm Amra Pajalich, writer, teacher and storyteller. Pull up a chair and let's dive into stories about writing, life and lessons learned, sharing wisdom from my armchair to yours. You can find the episode show notes, your free episode handouts and my how-to guides at amrapajalich.com/podcast. And now it's time to dive in.
Same here.
Today I'm joined by Kelly Nielsen, who's an author, coach, educator and the founder of Just Right Words. She spent over 2 decades as a teacher working closely with language, learning and the messy realities of how people actually develop confidence in their writing. These days she brings that experience into her work as an author coach, supporting writers who want more than vague encouragement. Through Just Right Words, Kelly works with emerging and indie authors at all stages, from idea to refinement and publication. There's a strong focus on clarity, craft and sustainable creative practice, and she's deeply invested in the indie community, advocating for writers. And that's actually how we met, because I appeared on your podcast as an indie author. So thank you for that. So in this conversation, we're going to talk about shifting from teaching to running a small creative business, the skills that we bring as educators, because we're both high school teachers, primary school, and working one-on-one with writers. So welcome, Kelly. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Amra. This has been a journey in the making with trying to actually find a time that we were both available, right? So
I know, and then the best part is we actually are available. And we've got it on the books. And then my perimenopausal brain couldn't remember how to log into my software, how to start my software, how to record. So that was also a fun journey.
It was, but we made it. We made it.
I had a lovely adrenaline rush, just kind of getting me going, getting me moving this afternoon. So I think I wanted to start with, what is an actual author coach, and how did you sort of get into this side of this business that you started?
That's like a really long story, so I'll try to condense it. So to start with, an author coach is a coach, essentially, who works with authors or people who have a book idea inside them and need help bringing that book out into the world. So whether they've just got like a little bit of an idea and they need help, or confidence or motivation, sometimes just refining that idea or knowing how to structure the book or whatever, or maybe like some of my clients, they've already written their book and they're just like, I don't know if this is good enough, I know there are gaps, I'm sick of looking at it, blah, blah, blah. So I step in at any stage, really, and just provide that encouragement and the feedback and the motivation to keep going and to get it out there. Second part of the question, how did I get into it? So as you mentioned, I was a teacher for what I now refer to as longer than a life sentence, because I was teaching for 26 years. Don't get me wrong, I loved the actual teaching side of things. It was the other stuff that was sort of ceased to be enjoyable after a while. I spent a number of years towards the end of my career thinking, I don't want to do this anymore, but I don't know how to get out. And you would know this, teachers have this thing where we've been doing it for so long, we think we've got no other skills, whereas when you're a teacher you have all of these skills that you can apply to almost every career except perhaps brain surgery and rocket science. But so I spent a lot of time sort of thinking, I want to get out, but it's a risk factor and I've got a permanent position and blah blah blah. And eventually I just came to the realization after I'd had breast cancer and thought, life is too short to be doing what I don't want to be doing anymore. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So I went in for a meeting with my principal. So I'd sort of started my business as an editor and was just sort of doing it in between, in the cracks. And I went in for a meeting with my principal, the yearly what do you want to do now meeting. And he said to me, he's like, well, for next year, he said, I either need you to come back full-time, because I was working part-time, or we'll have to look at a transfer. And I'm just like, I knew it was coming. I'd been at that school for like 7 or 8 years anyway. And I opened my mouth, and I think I surprised both of us. I just said, I think I might just resign. And I think in my head, I was just like, oh my God, what are you saying? Shut up, shut up, shut up. But those words came out of my mouth, and he looked at me and he's like, and this was in July, okay? And he's like, when? At the end of the year? And I went, no, now. And I walked out after then negotiating that I'd stay for an extra month. I walked out and went to a colleague and went, I've just quit that. And yeah, so that was, I sort of fell into working in the business full time that way, and had started like editing. So I was copy editing and proofreading. And the more I worked with people, the more I actually realized that I could use my teaching skills to coach, because I've essentially gone from teaching to teaching, but being able to choose who I teach, if that makes sense.
And I mean,
Yeah.
your story, I was just listening to your story, and I'm going, that's the thing, so many of us who are teachers, we love the classroom, we love the kids in it, but outside of it, we just feel like cogs in a machine
Yes.
that are just being ground, and like we don't get choice. They give us whatever they want in terms of classes. Like I'm working 4 days a week. They give me whatever day they want in terms of my day off. I don't even put a preference anymore, because I'm like, that's actually worse, to put a preference and have it ignored. And that's what sort of wears you down. And as you were talking, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm having a lot of those same thoughts and feelings where, and this is also, I like to talk to people in this podcast who have interesting stories, but also for my own professional learning. And
Yes.
so you are kind of my inspiration in terms of the way to transition out of the teaching profession and into some sort of matches our interests a little bit more. And there was just something else I was thinking about, and I thought, did you want to talk about it? In terms of, there are so many emerging writers who really want to tell a story and have a book they want to write and tell. And there are so many dodgy operators out there who take advantage of them, who rip them off, who, these poor people think that they're getting a publishing contract, and they're like, I'm getting a publishing contract, and then they want me to pay $5,000, and we're like, sweetie, no. If they want you to pay, that means that they are providing you the service. So is that something that also you're sort of seeing, and you're, seeing your clients go through?
I do. I see a lot of it, and it makes me so cranky. So if I've got a client, I always say, and if they are putting their work out there to submit to traditional publishers, I will always say to them, let me know who you're submitting to. I can give you a hand to write your cover letter, blah, blah. So if they come back to me and they're like, oh, I just noticed this group, they came up, this publisher, I'm going to submit to them. I'm just upfront. I'm like, no, that's a vanity publisher. Don't do it. Just don't do it. There are a couple of publishers out there who I won't name, even though I'd like to, who go under the banner of being traditional but are not operating ethically. I have said to a couple of clients, if you go with them, I will not help you. So I'm like, what you see is what you get. Basically, I don't beat around the bush. If I don't like something, I'll say that, and I'll say why. But yeah, when it comes to paying to get your book published, there's good and there's evil with that. So we do have our hybrid publishers as well, and some of the hybrid publishers are fantastic. They are legitimate. Sometimes it's called author supported publishing. Yes. As well, and some of them are absolutely legitimate. You just need to do your homework. So, if something seems a bit dodgy, if you get headhunted by a publisher saying, oh, I've seen your work online and da-da-da-da, and I love what you do, and no, publishers don't do that. Okay, they have enough people submitting work to them. They don't need to, if they're legitimate, they don't need to go hunting for you. So some of it comes down to, dare I say it, common sense.
Yeah, I think people don't understand, because if it is someone that you are paying to provide service to you, then it is your copyright, and you get every bit of the royalty. Whatever is sold is your money.
Yes.
But if you are paying for a service and then they are saying, oh, and we get the royalty or we get a percentage of the royalty. No,
Yeah.
no. Because when you are traditionally published, they buy the rights from you and you get a royalty because they have invested and they are producing the book. Therefore, you get, a percentage, a 10% of whatever the cost is. But when we are publishing ourselves and we put a book for sale, whatever the difference is between the sale price and our production costs, that profit is all ours.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think too, when if you've come across, like if you've had an offer from a publisher, whether they're traditional or hybrid or whatever, or it could be a self-publishing operation like the one that I run, you look at the contract and you go through it with a fine-tooth comb. And there are organisations out there who can actually, for a fee, and it's 100% worth it, actually look over your contract and offer suggestions for improvement, or say, whether it's legitimate. So the Australian Society of Authors, for example, offer that service. Alex Adset offers that service as well as part of her agency. So there are people out there who do it, but don't. I think a lot of these so-called publishers, they prey on people's emotion. Like you've put your heart and soul into writing something, and to have somebody say, love this, I'd like to publish it, instantly you're like, oh my God, it's all been worth it. And I think any shred of common sense that you might otherwise possess flies straight out the window. So take a step back, breathe, look at it, get somebody else to look at it for you.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Most of us, we've dreamt about this all of our lives.
Yeah.
And so, like I remember for me when I actually got the call, when we used to get the calls. And so for me, it was the call that I had been shortlisted for the Victorian Premier's Prize for an unpublished manuscript. And so it was like, oh, and that was and still is a very prestigious prize that gets a lot of publicity and a lot of mention. Amazing authors who have been published, as well as moi. Um,
I love this. I can't do that.
So
I need to
modest, aren't I? So I like also that I don't really have much hair, but I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm gonna do the flick. I will make
I
that
could do
effort.
it
I
with
will make the flick work. That's right. Yeah. So we all hunger for that, and that's something also that I'm noticing in the indie world because I was traditionally published. And I had a lot of those accolades, but also I put in the work. I had a lot of short stories published, won a lot of prizes. So really built my CV over, a decade, slow drip, and then worked my way up to a publishing contract and then all the other bells and whistles that come with it. So I still see it a lot with indie authors who are sort of searching for that validation.
Mm.
And the amazing thing is some of them are earning so much more money than I ever earned as a traditionally published author.
Oh yes. I mean, if you do the right thing and you do your promotion and you put in the legwork and that sort of thing, you can 100% earn back, what you've spent, and then start making a profit. You don't need to take shortcuts to get there. But I think, as you would well know, that it's the legwork afterwards that and the ability to sell yourself and sell your book that is really important to be able
Well,
to and do that really as
yes.
an indie author.
And the promotion doesn't end. That's the thing. Like it
No.
is a constant process, but it's also a wonderful thing that you can do because when you are traditionally published, they give you 6 weeks of a publicist sort of giving you some attention
If you're
and
lucky.
something happening if you're lucky. And then you just kind of sink to the bottom with them. They've moved on to another book, another author. Whereas when you are running it as your own small business, every book that you do is you promoting and getting it out there.
Yes.
What are some of the things that you're seeing that, you think that emerging authors need a little bit more thinking about? I mean, we've talked about the research and understanding the publishing industry and understanding what they're getting into.
So I don't know if you're talking about like emerging as in still writing their book. Yeah. So thinking about I there's so many things to think about. I think just talk about knowing that it's not just your one draft and it's going to be perfect, knowing that you need to redraft multiple times with your target audience in mind as well, and your message. If you're writing fiction, you have your story question. Everything that you do needs to feed into that. You want, at the end of the day, you want what you've written to be the best it possibly can be. But in saying that too, I think you also people need to remember, and a lot of new authors and some really established ones still struggle with this, is that you don't need to action every single bit of feedback that you get.
Yeah.
And that was probably, when I'd started to write seriously, I fell into that trap. I'm like, oh no, I know nothing. I've got all this imposter syndrome, blah, 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 blah. I've got these, couple of great mentors, and I'll just, every time they say something, I'm going to make that change. And somebody says that, I'm going to make that change. And what I ended up with was a manuscript that I didn't even recognize as my voice. It wasn't my story, and it was a piece of rubbish, basically, because I tried to shove in all of the feedback and I lost it in the process. So I think with feedback is, even if it's from a professional editor, right, and I say this to my clients all the time, just because I've made this suggestion or made this comment does not mean that it is right for you.
Yes.
Unless it's a grammatical thing. And even then, rules are made to be broken. So
if you can justify it, if there's a reason.
If you can justify it, like particularly in poetry as well. But, if you look at a piece of feedback and you're like, that doesn't really sit what I'm, serve what I'm trying to say, or it doesn't really sound like me or whatever, don't put it in, because at the end of the day, the name on the front of the book is yours and this is your story, So,
and that comes from confidence in terms of
100%.
When you're writing and you're starting out, you don't quite know. The other thing that I've seen is, especially, when I run memoir writing workshops, a lot of women about our age are writing about traumatic experience that they've gone through, a lot of them about sexual abuse. And so where they go to a writing group and they're sharing something very personal, very traumatic that happened to them, and a lot of people don't like trauma. They don't want to be confronted with it. They find it uncomfortable. And so, I had to have conversations with them about really find the safe space, find that safe person.
Yes.
Who can support you in that writing process and being there for you. Because, especially with memoir, if you're writing something so personal, it really can, break you a little bit. But also, just when you talk about feedback, my memoir that I ended up getting traditionally published, but it was a really long, protracted journey with my agent submitting, her giving up, me taking over. But I had Alice Pung as my mentor, and I originally wrote it in two points of view, my point of view and my mum's point of view. And I really liked that structure. And she was like, yeah, this is great. And then I submitted it to my agent, and my agent was like, no, 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 we need to make it more first person to make it more commercial. And I remember having this conversation with Alice where she was like, there was nothing wrong with your book. Your book was great as it is. And that's the thing, there are all these different aspects that come into it. So in that situation, it was about my agent wanting something that was more commercial, that had more saleability. But in the end, it wasn't for her. She wasn't the person who sold it. And that change, I'm still happy with the book that I did and the changes that I made, but it was a very different book in terms of the real point of view that I had.
Yeah, absolutely. And you need to find, I think, and it is a confidence thing as well, but I think you need to, as an author, you need to back yourself. And if you're working with somebody who doesn't align with your vision, they're not the right person. I've said this to previous clients. It's like, I have a very strong opinion about XYZ that you're writing about. I'm not sure that I'm the best person to edit this for you. That being said, you're talking about trauma before. I, a while ago, got a little bit of a reputation for being the editor who, I will edit and work with people who are writing trauma-based things. There's a lot of editors who can't for their own personal reasons, and that is fine as well, and they're open about that and honest as well. Whereas I don't know whether it's my teaching background and the number of mandatory reports that I had to put in, But I have this weird, uncanny ability to be able to separate the job, but still be compassionate, but separate that from my own internal, I take that on board. I can edit it,
Yes.
objectively as well. So, but it is important, and it is hard when you're writing trauma-based
Yeah.
stuff. It's
Yeah.
hard on the author, and it's hard on the people who are reading it as
Yeah.
well. But it's so important to write about
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Because there are stories we need out there, like because
Yeah.
it's about like I recently read a book, actually have I got it here, All Things in Nature Merely Grow, about an author. This is one of her books, Yoon Lee.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, about losing two sons to suicide.
Mm.
And my stepfather committed suicide, and this book just completely, like I had an internal shift where something really opened up and
Yeah.
things made sense for me, and I had this great sense of just,
Yes.
relief and realization. And that's why we need these books. We need them to
Mm.
process our own emotions and our own difficult times, and
Yeah.
they are lighting that path for us
Yeah,
as we
absolutely.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I sort of think too, like there's a lot of authors who, and I've worked with a lot of people who've gone, oh, I've got this story, but nobody will be interested. That was me initially with my breast cancer memoir. I'm just like, oh my God, do you know how many books there are out there about breast cancer? Memoirs about breast cancer. There's literally thousands of them. And I'm like, who am I to think I can write one that'll add to that? The story wouldn't leave me alone. But what I'm saying is that, they're not everybody. Your book is not going to be for everybody. Your story is not going to be for everybody, but it will be for somebody. And that somebody, you may well change the course of their life just
Yes.
by them seeing themselves in what you've written and knowing that they're not alone. So, you know what, if you're compelled to tell your story, tell it.
Yes. Yeah, because it's that I don't know, you have to lead with that heart and that passion, because that's what carries us through when we're reading.
Yeah.
That's what we really, really feel. So in terms of the business and the book coaching, what have been some of the, things about being a small business person and entering this new world? What have been some of the challenges or some of the things that you wish you'd known?
How long have we got?
Let's
Challenges, man. So you think about like marketing your own business and putting yourself out there, and promotion, and there is that, you know it's an issue for indie authors as well, marketing, promotion, distribution. But as a small business owner, there are a lot of people who do what I do basically, and some people are great, some people are not so great, but there are a lot of people out there on social media, on LinkedIn, Instagram, talking about, I'm an author coach and this is why you should work for me. Work with me. With me, I still struggle with that whole marketing. I don't. I've got a coach at the moment who's saying, put yourself out there, do this. I don't like cold calling. I don't like connecting with people and instantly selling, even though I know it's something that you have to do. But I'm also in the very fortunate position that when I started the business, I already had a lot of contacts, because I sort of started circulating in the author and creative world before I started circulating in the small business world. And so I had a lot of contacts. I had people who knew what I did. And then my first business coach encouraged me to join a business networking group, and that's where I got my first clients and sort of built from there. So I've always, and I'm going to shoot myself in the foot here, I hope I don't jinx myself, but I've always gained new clients through people I know, and people I know who know other people who refer,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
And I do a little bit of promotion on LinkedIn and Instagram, and I have gained a couple of clients through LinkedIn as well. But the bulk of my clients come from people I know and from referrals. So I've been lucky, and I always think, God, if my clients dry up, and every now and then I think it's going to happen, and then all of a sudden, I get this sort of influx. I'm just like, I wouldn't even know how to start marketing my business. It's like, what do you do? I don't know. It's like, oh, I've got to go out there and sell myself. I've got to start running Facebook ads, So I think that is challenging in itself, in that it's a constant concern when you're working freelancing in small business, being a sole trader. Where is my next client coming from? What if I'm just about finished this job that I'm working on? What if I don't get anybody else? Who am I going to get to? It's always that, and that's a challenge. And sort of trusting the process and overcoming that challenge is overcoming that self-doubt is probably the biggest challenge there is. The other challenge is pricing. It's like, how much is too much? I want to get clients. I don't want to scare them off. But I also don't want to work for $1 an hour,
Yes. Yeah, because these
Finding,
are time-consuming things.
finding clients that actually value your time and your expertise, and when you say, okay, this is how much that will cost, they go, oh, that's great, thank you, rather than, oh, that's so expensive. Okay, well, what was your budget? And they give you like 10% of what you said. It's like, yeah, please go to Fiverr. But it is like, I spent a lot of the first 5 years even now I struggle with it, but just self-doubting my pricing, and then allowing myself to be beaten down in price, because I'm just like, oh, I'll give you this price, and because I'm worried you won't pay the full price, and then resenting it. That's the worst
Yeah,
thing,
because I've done that too, where I've done gigs for less and
Mm-hmm.
then just been angry and
Yeah.
feeling, because you want to do these things where you're like, okay, this is the best me, and this is
Mm-hmm.
the moment, and we're all about wanting to
Yeah.
just like get things out of life. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, and it is, and it's not anger at the client, because you made this bet yourself.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
it's
You're
just,
the one
why
who
did
went,
I
oh,
do that?
I'm going to accept that.
Yes, yeah. Mind you, there are a couple of people who circulate in my world, and who won't be after a while, who I've given a little bit and they take advantage of it. And it's like,
Mm.
oh, love the free stuff, but don't want your paid stuff.
Yeah,
And
that's a hard
this
lesson
is
I've learned
about
too.
me looking at these people and going, you are not my people. That's it. You've got to draw the line somewhere. And it sounds awful, and there's going to be people out there going, oh my God, she's such a terrible person, and blah, blah, blah.
No, it's
But too bad you're not my people either.
no, but also I've learned the hard way. If someone gets something for nothing, they put no value on it at
Exactly.
all, at all.
Yeah.
Whereas as soon as you attach a monetary price, so even if I'm giving a discount in terms of, local rates, it's like, well, this is my usual rate, but
Yeah.
because I am doing it this, because it's like you need to know that I am lowering, and that is why.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a different mindset as we
Yes.
go into a business mode, but then we've got that bleeding heart and we're battling all of those internal
Yes.
emotions.
And some of it is that teacher thing too, I think, is
Yeah,
that you're like, as a career teacher, we're here to nurture, and we're
yes,
here to help, and that's why we're in this industry. And sometimes I look at it, I'm like, why did I go from this helping, nurturing industry into another one? But it's what we do, but it also allows us, to allow ourselves to be taken advantage of in that
Well,
way.
even I just saw, I don't know if you know who Holden Shepherd is, young adult author from Perth. His book Invisible Boys was made into a Stan TV show.
Mm,
So he's doing very well. And he just posted about, because he's gay and so he writes characters who are gay and own
mm.
voices stories. And as Pride Month is, at some point coming up, people are reaching out and expecting him to work for free.
Oh, there is that issue in there.
Yeah, and he was very angry about that. And I was like, that's the thing.
Hmm.
You don't ask a plumber. You don't go, hey, mate, I know you've got a mortgage and you've got this skill and this knowledge,
Yeah.
but I'm going to call you and ask you to work for free just because I don't
Yes.
value.
I think there is something in the I don't value, but I think there's also a misconception there in the general public that, and I think the more we say this, hopefully it will change. But that misconception is oh, you're an author, your book retails for $32.99, you must be rich,
No,
you must get all that money. So particularly, well, actually, or I'm not even going to say particularly, all authors, just let it be known, most authors have to work a full-time job in order to
yeah,
support their writing career.
I do.
Yes, we all do. It's like I don't even want to think about what money I have not made from my books. But there is that thing, and you hear it. This is a very, very common complaint amongst children's authors who do school visits, is the schools say, we'd love you to come along to book week. And then when the author goes, okay, it'll cost this much, they're like, oh, you charge. It's like, well, I don't do this for the love of it. Oh, we thought, you make money from you. It's like, no, authors make money. Their money comes, their breadwinning comes from doing public appearances
Yes.
and
And all
being
the other
paid for those.
things. Yeah, because most of my income was coming from freelance writing and doing workshops.
Yes,
I
we
have
work to support our writing habit.
Yeah, yeah, and it gets and like I've been invited to like festivals, and I'm
Mm.
like, oh, I'm invited to a festival, and then they're like, it's for free. I'm like, darling, that's a 2 hour trip
Yes, yes.
that you're wanting me to give up.
Hmm.
Such a big chunk of my time where I could be doing 50 million other things,
Yes,
including writing, but
yep,
anything else. Yeah, it is a
yeah.
big
And
problem.
it's not only the travel time and the time spent there, it's and possibly your accommodation that you might have to pay
Mm,
for yourself as well. It's not a holiday. It's also the prep time because
yeah,
actually, it's one author I know who can do this, but most authors can't go and give an hour-long presentation without at least 10 hours of prep behind that,
mm,
and possibly more, plus the angst and practice and that sort of thing. So, yeah, I don't know whether it's a lack of value or a lack of actual comprehension as to how much authors do actually earn from their books.
yeah,
And this has been gnawing away in my head ever since we started talking about this. But as an indie author, and I hate this, and I've actually lost a couple of friends over it. Kelly, oh, I'd love to read your book. Can I have a copy? Have. Okay, so this book cost me X amount to publish. Yeah, sure. I'm just going to buy, because I publish through Ingram Spark, I'm going to buy a whole heap of copies and I'm just going to give them away as gifts. No. Okay,
yeah,
don't ask an indie author to gift you their book.
yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And it's
Have
also like
some
we
respect.
do review copies.
Oh
We
yes.
might give people a review copy. That's a digital copy, darling.
Mhm.
Not many of us, unless you've got a platform and you're actually going to be showing my physical copy in some way.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, there is a lot of. I had
Yep.
someone, I was a little bit cranky. I had someone ask for a review copy, and I was like, oh, great. And then I saw them and I said, oh, can you post a review on Goodreads? Oh, I don't have my Goodreads account.
Yep. Okay,
But I
that's it.
gave you a review copy.
Yes.
That's what a review copy means.
Yeah, yeah. Where are you reviewing it, by the way? Yeah.
But that's on me. That's on me. In future, if providing a review copy, there has to be a Google form and a list of where will you be publicizing this
Mhm.
review. So, that's also a learning
Yep. I
lesson
know,
for me.
and it's important information, like for new and also existing indie authors, is there's so much like you don't know until you need to know, right?
Yeah.
And one of those things is, okay, well, what do I do after I finish the book? What do I do after I've got the book in my hand? What's involved next? It's not just going to get on, grow legs and sell itself. If somebody, and you will get on, they're rampant on Instagram at the moment, is people who say, I do promotion, I do this, and I really love your book. You get like a DM from somebody you don't know. Oh, I want to promote it, and I give
Every
you this number
day.
of followers, and blah, 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 blah. Most of them are not legit, and there is a lot of stuff going around at the moment where they're finding your email and they're emailing you with under what looks like a legitimate email. It's all scams.
Yeah.
It's I look at these things and I'm like, right, treat every email you receive as a scam until proven
Yes.
otherwise. And
My
it's not
favorite one.
innocent until proven guilty. It's
No,
actually hilarious.
unfortunately, because they're
Yes.
using AI to just write these emails that sound vaguely like they read the book. My favorite was there was a scam going around about Spotlight and that they're doing it. What was it? Anyway, that it's like some US show hosts in America doing a talk show and they're calling
Mm.
me to do a talk show.
Ah.
And they called me on a hot day, and I am not on my best on a hot day, right? They called me, and I said, and I said, why are you asking me questions? If you are contacting me and you are a publicist for the show, then you should
Mm.
have all that information about me. You should know who I am and what my achievements are and why you are inviting me. And so I just chastised them and then
Yes.
hung up and blocked the number because I was like, but unfortunately, people don't know, but I have actually lived in, done the traditional publishing,
Mm.
have been on TV, tiny little things, and done radio and all of this stuff. So I have some experience with some of these things that people don't. And, if someone is genuinely contacting you and they are doing that cold call where they're wanting
Mm.
to, interview you or do something, they will know about you properly.
Oh,
But it
yeah.
won't be just that vague stuff.
No, no.
It'll
They,
be something very, very clear and very specific, and then you will question them and
Mhm.
you will,
Yeah.
tease them out. Yeah. So one of the things that I also wanted to talk about is, we've talked a lot about the issues for emerging writers in terms of understanding the publishing world and protecting
Mhm.
themselves and doing the best that they can. But one of the things that we also discussed and I wanted to pick up a bit more is traditional publishing versus indie publishing, and in Australia, this really, big sort of stigma. And
Mhm.
you started your podcast so that you would just interview indie authors
Yep.
to give them a platform and a voice and promote that. So I just wanted to hear your perspective about that a little bit.
Yeah, I, with actually from the suggestion of a writer friend of mine, I went, you know what, my new personal hashtag is going to be Prod the Dragon. I, okay, so I'm self-published, but and in the back of my mind, I sort of thought, oh, people are going to do this because they think it's sour grapes, right? They're going to look at what I'm doing and go, oh, she's just sour grapes, blah blah blah. But I see it with a lot of people is there is this overarching, archaic, pathetic perception that if you are self-published, it's because your work was not good enough to be traditionally published. And you see it across the board. So you see awards not accepting, oh no, you can't submit your book for this award if you're self-published because you're not good enough for that. I got longlisted and then shortlisted in the ACT Writers Awards a couple of years ago for my memoir, and I came runner-up or second or whatever, but my book was not compared against traditionally published authors. They actually separated out those categories, and I was like, okay, well, why do you have to have a separate? I mean, I'm really pleased that they did accept like indie books. That's a huge leap compared to some awards, but there was still that separation. It was like, oh, your book is not good enough to be compared to somebody else, so we'll give you your own little category and that sort of thing. And then so there's you see it in awards, you see it in distributors. They won't touch you if you're an independent publisher, independent author. You see it in, competitions and awards. You see it in other podcasts. So what really got me going was seeing a couple of people in various author platforms say, hey, I've got this podcast. Really, I'd love for people to submit your stuff, send it to me, blah, 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 blah. So one person was quite upfront and said only traditionally published authors. And instantly I went, well, why? Why? Because I work with a few people and know a few people that publish the most gorgeous picture books. They spend a lot of money. They hire top-notch illustrators and that sort of thing. But they're self-publishing, and this is a choice. It's not because their work isn't good enough. But then the next podcast person came along and went, oh, everybody's welcome. So I just put up, this is in a Facebook forum, I just put up a little comment saying, so what about self-published? No, not self-published. And so I pushed it. And I'm like, well, why? Why is that? I don't have enough time to do this. So what you're saying is that self-published is not good enough? Yeah, well, traditionally published, they've done the work and the blah, blah, blah. And the conversation went on like that. And eventually I pushed it so far that this person blocked me. So I'm like, well, that's a win. I'm quite pleased with that. But I just went, I am really cranky about this. And then I think the final nail, if you like, and I'm not going to say in the coffin, but I quite like that concept, is when the ASA came out and supported a program that did not support independent authors at all and was excluding them. So, and I actually called them on that publicly, so I'm quite happy to say it here. ASA are fantastic in so many ways, but there's just been a couple of times they've supported organisations that exclude independent authors for no reason at all. And I'm like, well, that's it. So I'm going to do this podcast so I exclude traditional published authors, but they have so many opportunities in so many other podcasts. They don't need me, my little podcast. But I love talking to authors who've published under their own steam and to other people in the industry who support independent authors. So I've interviewed Jessie Kniffy, who does book blurb magic. Sorry, Jessie. Who she works with independently published authors writing their blurbs. Business. It astounds me all the time. I just want to just shine a little light on independent authors and just say, hashtag self-published is not second best by any stream, and we need to be treated equally. The other thing is booksellers as well. Take your book, take your book if you're an independent author. Take your book to some of the bigger booksellers out there, and I've done this with mine and with clients' books with a couple, and they're like, oh, just wondering if you'd like to have a look at this book and maybe take a couple of copies on consignment and blah blah blah. Oh, is it self-published? Yes. No, thank you. Don't look at the book. Judge the. They've judged the book on the fact that it's been self-published. Do you want to look at this? This book was professionally edited. It has this professional design, blah, 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 blah. No, it's self-published. We don't do that. Shout out to the bookshops who support.
Better Read Than Dead, who have got my copies of Time Kneels Between Mountains. Readings also do it. Some gimmicks stores will also support.
Because they're franchises, right?
Yeah, but it depends on the store. Yes. It's not every single one. It depends on the specific store.
Yes. The Book Cow in Canberra, so supportive of local independent authors. So there are booksellers out there that do that, but there are a lot that just go, no. It's like without even looking at the book. So, judge the book on the book, not on the
because readers do. Readers do, because at this point I make this claim, and I do not believe it is hyperbole. I make the claim that at this junction in time, the most viable way for an author to make a living is by being an independently published author.
Yes.
Because the traditional publishing model is collapsing and there's so many more pressures and less opportunities. But also what I find fascinating is if you are an artist, you paint, you put on an exhibition at a gallery and people buy your work, and that's okay. You are a jeweler, you create jewelry, you sell it online, you sell it in markets, that's okay. So there are all these crafts, all these people who are creating things themselves, they are doing it themselves, and they are selling, beautiful, amazing things.
Yeah.
But there is something about the writing world and the publishing industry. I almost think that this is on purpose, that this is an effort to, because honestly, I'm going to make another statement here that's controversial.
Go for it.
But the only way that the traditional publishing industry functions is because it's gaslighting us into thinking that we are the chosen ones. But when you actually look at what you get from the fact that they are taking all of your intellectual property, like they sign you to a contract where they take everything, all of your rights, and you have no right of negotiation or refusal. You just basically have to take it or leave it. And, so they take it all, but what you get back, you get 10%.
Yes,
And
if
you
you're
don't even,
lucky.
if you're
If you're
lucky, like,
if you're a picture book author, you get five.
yes, because of the high cost of illustrations, the high
Yeah.
cost of production, of color
Mm.
printing. So, like you are the one who has generated the content that is being used to sell, that is
Mhm.
powering this whole industry. And
Yeah.
yet we are the ones who are completely at the bottom.
Yeah.
And at least the joy with being an indie author
Hmm.
and your own small press is that yes, I have to pay the costs. I have to pay, for my software that I use for the production. I have to pay for the editing. I have to pay for all of these things. And for promotion and advertising. Like I'm going to some book fairs this year. I have to pay for the tables to be at those book fairs
Yes.
to be able to try and sell the books. But at least I also have the joy. At
Yes.
least I also have the intellectual property that I can maximize and that I can do into various formats. Because, my last book that I sold traditionally, I attempted negotiating. I did not get anywhere.
No, and no, you don't. They're pretty well locked in. Like
Yeah.
and the thing is too, um, like there is the word, like, if you do go down the traditional publishing route and you are lucky, and I'm going to say it's luck, right? Luck of the
I
draw.
agree.
It's if you are lucky enough to be offered a contract, word is, oh, try to negotiate terms. They're not going to, because
No.
the thing is, unless there is something completely unreasonable there, is that they have 4,000 other manuscripts that they can turn to instead of yours. I think it's your decision. It's like, okay, do I want to go down this path or do I not? I mean, even though I am all about independent, like indie authors and self-publishing and author publishing and all that sort of thing, I also do believe that, if you want to pursue a traditional contract, you absolutely should as well. And there are plenty of authors out there that I know that do both. Okay, so that, some authors that have self-published, a large number of books, but they're still submitting to traditional publishers, and maybe they get a contract. And as somebody, I can't remember who it was now, otherwise I'd name drop, but somebody pointed out the other day that yes, I love self-publishing. I love the control that it gives me, and all that sort of thing. And I love being able to make those decisions. It's a business, right? It's not just a hobby. But I'm still pursuing, this is what this person said, I'm still pursuing a traditional contract, because that is, at the moment, with the way the perception is, that is the only way that I'm going to be able to make a name for myself. Well, not going to say not the only way, but it is probably the quickest way. So if I've got one book published by a traditional publisher under my name and it's promoted and it's out there, sadly, it's almost like instant credibility as well.
Yeah.
And I
And
think we
I
have to
do
be realistic about that as well. And
look,
some
I am
publishers are
benefiting.
fantastic. Some
Yeah.
traditional publishers, brilliant to work for. They do the right thing and that sort of thing. And there's a few of them that really, really look after their authors and their illustrators as well. So, we're not here to say down with traditional publishers. What I want to say is, you know what? Stop judging people on how they've been published and judge the book, because there's some rubbish out there that's been traditionally published and there is rubbish that's self-published, and vice versa. So, yeah.
And readers decide at the end of
Yes,
the day.
let the readers decide. Don't tell them what they should and shouldn't be
No.
doing.
And I mean, what you're talking about, like I did have the benefit of the traditional publishing industry and it did give me a great apprenticeship. I had
Mm,
really supportive editors with my short stories and building up my writing and then with my first few books. So transitioning into this part of my life has been much more seamless
mm,
because I had the benefit of those skills. Like even I noticed the last few blurbs I wrote, they were the blurbs that were being used almost verbatim by the publishers. And so I'm like, oh, I'm figuring this out. I'm learning the lingo. I'm learning how to lean in. And this is the issue when we are starting this being a small business, as you said, it is being a small business.
Yes, and that's how you need to treat it. So I was speaking to Maggie Walters not that long ago on the podcast. I think hers is going to air just before yours, I
Oh,
think.
I'll listen to it.
Yeah, she's fantastic. Or has it already gone to air? Might have already gone to air. I can't remember. I'm up to like number 22 something now. But Maggie was saying that, this is her business. This is what she does. And as an indie author, she treats this as her business. So, she does the marketing. She has allocated time each day to writing, allocated time to promo, to dealing with the other stakeholders in her business. So I think it all boils down to whether or not you can devote that time to making this your business, or whether it's just, okay, I've got this book, I've self-published it, I'm really proud of it, I have time to go and sell it at markets once every 2 months. I'll do a little bit of social media promotion. I mean, you get back what you give in, or what you put in.
So the thing is, you might not be able to do everything all at once. Like, this is the first year that I'm really stepping into the direct sales and going to the markets and the book fairs. I did one market before and I was like, oh, never again. But now I'm like, no, it's about meeting people. It's about making those connections. It's about, just sort of being open to, as opposed to thinking, is this worth the time versus effort? And you can't do everything all at the one time. You have to slowly ease into it and figure it out. And the great thing is, as each book comes out, that's a new opportunity to promote, and you can still promote the backlist, and that is promoting your backlist. And it's a constant process of learning, and the industry is constantly changing. There's always new things to learn and new things to try and to experience, and that's what I love about it. I think as teachers, that is the one thing about being a teacher. We can never rest on our laurels. It was always like, learn.
I know, and you learn something and you implement it, and then the next government comes in, they go, nah, we're going to change that.
And then when you're there long enough, you're like, a deja vu. I remember this being called this, and now it's a new name. Someone read an old journal, did they?
Yes. Yeah, and the people that come out, the new because I work with pre-service teachers, and some of them will say, oh, we came up with this concept. I'm like, oh, did you now?
No, you
Yes,
didn't.
okay.
No, you didn't. Just like there's no story that hasn't been told.
Yes, exactly.
There's no teaching model that hasn't been used.
Yeah,
no.
Absolutely. And I think just embracing that whole, as humans, we are lifelong learners. Like, you don't stop. And I think the minute you start going, yeah, I know everything about this industry, you're going to fail. In the story. So
that's what I actually love about it the most.
Yeah, but it's also frustrating. It's just like, I've just nailed how to do this, and now the system has changed away. But I think your mindset is fantastic. It's like, I'm excited about learning this new thing.
And, I love it.
Embrace it.
I'm constantly, my problem is actually going for too many shiny things at once. And then I've wasted so much time on shiny things that just was not for me. But I kind of have to go through that, because now I'm like, is this the shiny thing for me? Let's do a little bit of a think beforehand.
Yeah.
Let's not jump into that. Like, I launched into the Shopify store. That was not for me. So now I'm on PayHip, which is better because it's just a fee deducted when, a sale goes through.
Yes, okay.
Whereas Shopify is, constant.
It's a subscription, isn't it?
It's a subscription, it's monthly, and then you're supposed to get all these add-ons and all these things and set up this e-commerce stuff. And I don't like the pressure of that. I have realized my approach is creation and release. And building. I'm not into so I like the changes, I like the learning, but there is sometimes too much of it.
Yes. I think it's a bit of self-control.
Yeah, I'm learning.
You know what I want to say too? A couple of minutes ago, you went straight into teacher mode.
Did I?
Yes, I could see you leant forward to the camera, and I'm like, oh my God, there's the teacher. If I didn't know you were a teacher, it's like, how do I know somebody's a teacher without them telling me they're a teacher?
Yeah.
So yeah,
The face does
love it.
so much work. Like
You can never lose it.
90% of
Hmm.
everything that you do in the classroom is the face
Yeah,
because, you know, you just the
yeah.
looks and the body language.
The
And
teacher.
yes, it's wonderful though because applying it in the rest of your life, you know, like every once in a while my daughter is like, "Oh my God, your tone." And I'm like, "Well, they provoked it and they got it."
Yes, yep.
You know, so it's like
Just
don't
like my daughter.
yeah, don't push the boundary. As soon as you
Yeah,
push,
yeah, yep.
you will get it back. Yeah.
Yes. Oh no,
But I think also
I'll go.
that's yeah, and that's the thing about teaching. One thing that I've learned through teaching is I am not afraid to ask questions. I'm not afraid to ask for clarification
Hmm.
because we are constantly put in situations where we don't know what the hell is going on. And so I don't care anymore in every facet of my life. I was having a conversation with someone at an academic conference, so I felt very out of place. I was doing my
Mm.
first in-person presentation in my identity as a academic, you know, having done
Mm.
doing my PhD. And they were talking about Jamaican people immigrating to Australia, not to Australia, sorry, to England, and there was this term that they used. I can't remember something Wilson or Walton. And I was like, what is that? And then they explained, I don't care. I am not here to pretend and to just laugh along. I want to be part of the conversation. I want to know because that's
Mm-hmm.
something that I will now know, you know, for
Mm.
future. Yeah.
Yes. There is that whole attitude too as a teacher that you are the all-knowing as
Yeah.
well, and that oh, you never admit to students that you don't know something, and I'm just
No,
like,
I rubbish.
that's
I
like
never play
teaching
that game.
101 for pre-service teachers is if you don't know something, you tell the students you don't know and that you're going to find out
Yes.
together.
Yes.
And it's the same with me, with what I do now, is like I'll have a client who'll say to me, look, what about this? And I'll be like, actually, I don't know, but I'm going to find out for you, or let's go now and check this website and just see if we can unpack it together,
Yeah.
because you're going to tie yourself up in knots if you
No.
don't admit to not knowing something, when and maybe you should, but you don't, and that's fine.
Believe in it. And I just also like at this time with everything, you know, evolving so much in technology, like you are constantly learning and coming across things. And I think it's quite ludicrous to
Mm.
try and present that I am everything. And
Yes.
just, you know, what you said in terms of we're lifelong learners, I feel like I'm constantly adding new things to my, you know, identity.
Yes.
Like now we're both podcasters. That's our
Yes.
new identity. But you know, I'm not here to be fancy. As I admitted
No.
at the beginning, I could not remember how to get onto my platform.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's just, I've in my podcast when I stuff up, I've started leaving it in there.
Yeah,
You know
I
what?
don't care.
The thing is, too, I mean, if you can't laugh at yourself for something, life's pretty dull as it is.
Well, there's that. And then also, I don't know, do you listen to Joanna Penn, the Creative Penn podcast?
Yes, because you put me onto that.
Oh my God. So her last podcast, it just opened my eyes where she was like, in this day and age of all this AI, people actually crave human, where you're speaking like a human and you're
Um,
making a mistake and, you know, that they can tell that it's an actual human being doing
yes.
this and not something that's generated.
Mm,
And so that has also just really changed my view where I'm like, yes,
mm,
I am human and I need to lean into that and not put on that, you know, fake
yeah.
perfection persona and actually lean into the, yeah, that was an interesting moment today when I couldn't remember things and that's just my life.
Absolutely. So for everybody out there who's listening, watching, whatever, we're real.
Yes.
We're not, because you can. I've played with software that can actually generate like AI podcasts where it's you put in a little bit of content and it creates this entire podcast with, and it's only American voices at the moment, so that's the other reason why we're real, is it's created this entire podcast conversation between two AI bots. And it's just like,
Yeah.
oh my God, that's so cool. It's like, yes, but no, because it's
No.
still not human. And yes, so
And anyone who's watching this might have noticed I did write questions that I sent to Kelly,
you
but
did,
what
and
I
you've
love,
asked none of them.
I have asked none of them because what I love is the conversation and where it goes and the
So
energy.
let me show you. There we go. I printed them off, and I only put little notes because I'm like, oh God, what if Amra asks me a question and my mind just goes like that? And I had them here, and I know you said you weren't going to use them, but I put them here anyway, just in case. And then about halfway through, I just put them over on the side and went, yes, it's not going the way she said it would, but that's fine.
No, I think I'm going to start actually just sending the bio through and
Yeah,
just bullet points and saying, this is the bio, just proofread that, and these are the bullet points of what I want the conversation to be.
yeah,
But I don't share questions because I feel a bit bad if people are spending time preparing for the questions, and I
yeah,
just love the flow. I love just letting it, wherever the moment takes us.
yeah. So, full disclosure, I did pre-prepare, right? But it was at 10 to 2 when I went, oh God, I've got to get on this. Oh my God, where are the questions?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was like me last night going, I better send you a reminder, and then sent the wrong time.
Yes, and then me self-doubting and going, I'm sure it was 2 o'clock that it was in
No,
my calendar.
and it was in my
At
diary as
9:30.
2 o'clock. It was just me not looking at the next day and going, oh, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's that time.
Yeah, yeah. Never trust yourself. If you've got a teacher's brain, don't trust it because we remember
No,
nothing.
but we don't pretend.
No, and we don't care either.
No,
That's it.
exactly.
That's us.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, for having this great conversation, for having me on your podcast too. I really appreciate it. And just also for being another person that I know in this new world that I'm entering, that I can sort of touch base with and yeah, have a yarn with, because
Yeah.
it can be a bit of a lonely space because we're
Percent.
out there a little bit, aren't we?
It can be. And I think, because I know when you came on my podcast and we talked before I started recording for longer than I think the podcast went for,
Yeah,
because we both discovered we were both teachers, and then it was like, oh, there's a free for all.
it's on.
So yeah, but no, thank you. This has been fantastic. It's like, and I can't even remember how we connected in the first place, but I'm so glad we did.
Somebody actually told me that you were looking for guests and that I
That's right.
should contact you. So that's the other thing that's really lovely about social media. This is someone I don't actually know in real life, but we've been following each other, and then, people just reach out and they're like, oh, maybe you should try this, or maybe look
Oh,
at this. And that's also the joyous thing where, these online connections are also quite meaningful.
yes, yeah, absolutely. It's just, put yourself out there, be open, and
Yes,
say yes to stuff that scares the bejesus out of you.
because eventually it won't.
Yes,
Eventually it won't.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It was all sort of. But
Yeah.
thank you, Amra.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in to Amra's Armchair Anecdotes. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and follow for more insights, stories, and inspiration. From my armchair to yours, remember, every story begins with a single word.